What's up, print fam? Welcome back to another Q&A video. We don't have an intro to roll, so let's jump right into it. We do the intro before. Anyway, today's question is from the heat transfer vinyl forum that I'm a part of. The question, which is phrased a little weird, but I'll fix it, is what is your guys' thought on buying a cheap heat press machine? So, as you may or may not know, I've been running my business for almost 10 years officially. It's been running a little bit before that. I just didn't have it registered as a business, but I registered my business in December of 2009, so I will be hitting my 10-year mark next month. Now, the very first piece of equipment that I owned as part of my print business was a little 24-inch cutter. You can actually still buy the cutter today. It's frankly still really good, and I used it up until I got the latex about a year ago. Frankly, I wish I would have kept it because it allows you to cut scraps, and I throw all my scraps away for heat transfer. I'm thinking about putting all my heat transfers in a little box and doing like a scrap box giveaway, but that's beside the point. Anyway, the very first machine I had was that vinyl cutter, which I will link down in the description. And I had one of my customers want to do custom names on some hoodies. So I did some research and figured out, oh, there's this thing called HTV, which is heat transfer vinyl, and you need to buy a heat press to do it. And oh boy, was I nervous when I saw the price of how much that heat press costs. And I didn't want to buy the quote unquote cheap machine. You can get a heat press for 90, 100 bucks. I wouldn't suggest that. I'd spend 300 bucks maybe for your beginning heat press. And I'll link down to some. I still have the heat press. I actually loaned it to a friend that's also in the promotional products industry, and they are borrowing it for now because I bought an even nicer one. So before I give my official opinion, I will say that each heat press has its use. I'll link to a video up here or somewhere, one of these places, with the cheap hat press that I bought. And yes, it was about 100 bucks. And again, all the links will be down in the description. I bought that knowing that the job that I quoted to do those hats would cover the cost of the machine. So even if the machine broke after first use, I made my money off of it. So yes, I will buy cheap heat presses if it suits my need. But when you're buying a heat press for apparel, you can get away with a less expensive heat press when you're doing like standard HTV. Because the problem with the less expensive or cheap heat presses is typically you have the box that is the heat press and there's a heat coil, and it's not very uniform or even with the cheap heat presses. So if you're just transferring this, then it typically doesn't matter because it doesn't need every bit of the transfer to be perfect. Versus like in the case where I have picked up a white toner printer, it is very crucial that the heat be even and the heat be accurate and spread properly. And that's where the Stahl's Hotronics come in. And there's different variants. You can buy cheaper ones, you can buy more expensive ones. You can buy ones that auto open, you can buy ones that auto open and swing out. You can buy one that have air compressors. So there's lots of variations, but you kind of have like the super cheap, which are about the $100 ones. I wouldn't buy those. You then have kind of the mid-range, which are the $300 ones. You have the nice ones, which are $600 to $1,000, and then you have like the super nice $1,000 plus. And that's usually when you get into the more feature set, is when you're doing $1,000 plus. Really, the two brands that I would buy are, I think it's called a Knight. It's like the DK20 or the Stahl's Hotronics. And I obviously bought the Stahl's Hotronics, and frankly, I bought it used. I looked and looked and looked for weeks until I found one being sold locally so that I could pick it up. The one thing that I did make sure is that they still had the box, because if I ever have to send the press for repair work, I wanted the box to go with it. So that's my opinion. I think it is okay to buy cheaper heat presses or even the cheapest heat press if you're doing simple stuff. If you're doing the more complicated stuff, you do need a good heat press. So I'll link down to some ones that I recommend. I'll link down to the Stalls, which is the one that I have, which I love. It's great. But I still love my $300 one, and I would use it if I hadn't have loaned it out to someone. So thanks for watching. If you have questions you want me to answer, ask them down in the comments. Thanks as always for following along, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, Pro Fam.